folks. Look at all of you here waiting for me already. Thank you guys so much for being here. So, here we are. It is time for our monthly webinar on YouTube Live. Our topic this month is the court cards. And let's take a look and see who's in the room. Okay, Kathy, Marion, nice to see you. Lynn, glad you're here. Sherry, Martha, glad you're here. So, and I think that the way it works, I don't see everyone who's here. And of course, if you're watching an archive, I can't see that you're here, but thank you for being here. So, we're going to be working with the court cards. Hey, Leisha, nice to see you. We're going to be working with the tarot court cards for the next hour. I do want to let you know this is a monthly thing. The next thing, and it's already scheduled, you can find it right here on my channel, is going to be March 8th, which is a Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Finding Truth in the Suit of Swords. So I hope you'll join me for that as well. And for those of you who are also on Facebook, of course, we have our monthly Global Tarot Circle. You can ask to join the group Global Tarot Circle, and that way you never miss a meeting. Our next Global Tarot Circle meeting, that's coming up pretty quickly as well. It will be, Wednesday, March 4th. You got to love March 4th because it's a date and a directive. March 4th. Okay. Veronica, nice to see you here. All right. So for this class, what you need is you need to have your court cards sorted out. And I'd like to start with a pile of pages, a pile of knights, a pile of queens, and a pile of kings. Of course, you can sort your court cards two different ways, right? You can sort them by rank or by suit. And I'd like to start with them sorted by rank. Now, if you are a Crowley-Harris deck reader, this class will not be terribly helpful to you. One of the differences between the Waite tradition and the Crowley tradition is the court is really very different. And so I'm working right now with my Hanson-Roberts deck. Any Waite-based deck is appropriate for this class. Otherwise, you might get some good information from it, but it will be radically different, and it's important to understand that. I also want to talk about the fact that even in Waite tradition decks, hey TK, glad you're with us driving, just drive safely. Even with Waite tradition decks, sometimes there's a difference in the nomenclature. Pages will be princesses, knights will be princes, or maybe it's a more, how do we want to put it, a more spiritually based deck. Like I'm thinking about World Spirit deck, where the court is seers, seekers, sibyls, and I think shaman. And my question, and let me just put this out to you for discussion as you're sorting out your deck, is that a difference for you? If you're working with a deck and the pages are seers, for instance, or like Mother Peace, where the pages are daughters and the knights are sons, and what are they? I don't remember whether it's mother and father or priestess and shaman or something. My question to you is, if the structure is the same, but the nomenclature is different, does it change the way you read the cards? And, for me, I would say sometimes in the moment it might, because the name of the card is really pertinent to the reading. But typically, I would say not. I would say that for me, the page energy is the page energy no matter what you call it. The night energy is the night energy no matter what you call it. But I know that I am, other people may see things differently. Okay, so Veronica says not for me. So you mean you're like me, there is no difference, or are you saying that there is a difference for you? Go ahead, chat in, let me know how you feel about that. And remember, as with all things tarot, there is no right or wrong way to do things. Well, Okay, what's a wrong way to do it? A wrong way to do it is to scare yourself or someone else, to interpret the cards in such a way that you are giving a definitive reading with no room for interpretation or free will. But other than that, is there a wrong way? I don't think there is. Hey, Aaron, nice to see you here. Glad you're here. So, the reason, right, Veronica says exactly no difference most of the time. Yeah, that's the way it works for me. I feel like it is what it is there. Now, I know that with the court, like the court of tarot is problematic for a lot of reasons. On one hand, it's very hierarchical. It's very sexist in a lot of ways. Chris Walder tried to do something about that in her Goddess Tarot, where she actually put the queens as the highest expression and the kings under the queens. That was kind of interesting. Marion says, it doesn't change much for me. Like you, it sometimes depends within the oracular moment. Right, exactly. That oracular moment can do a lot of things, right? Hey, Faith, nice to see you here. Glad you're here. Anna, glad you're here. So, Aaron agrees, doesn't see a difference so much. Lynn says, really shouldn't make a difference, but like to stick to tried and true. You might want to tell us more about that. What does that mean, stick to tried and true? Does that mean you stick to a particular deck? Does that mean you stick to a particular set of interpretations? Let us know what that means to you. So we know that the court cards can be problematic because they can be sexist, because they can be hierarchical. I will tell you that the way I will teach it, Faith, this is working with the tarot court. And specifically working with the Waite tradition court, or, obviously a deck that is in the Waite tradition. I'm working with my Hanson Roberts. So, we know that beyond the court, coming from this time of patriarchal hierarchy, the court can be difficult in readings. And let me know, go ahead and chat in if you have found this to be true, that the court can be difficult in readings because these cards are so very versatile. We understand that a tarot card can mean a lot of different things within a reading, and in fact can mean more than one thing in the same reading. You can go back and interpret a card more than once in the same reading to derive more information. And Lynn says usually just RWS, just a familiarity thing. I'm a Waite girl. I totally get it. Absolutely. Absolutely. So the thing with the court is we see these as cards that can indicate people, but they don't always indicate people. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes in a reading they will indicate people and also give a directive. Sometimes they will indicate people and also predict something. So you have to be very intuitive when you work with the court, and you have to be very willing to let the court cards speak to more than one thing at the same time in the same reading. Aaron says, I did switch kings and queens for quite a bit and it worked fine, although I started to realize I never really saw them in a rigid hierarchy. I think you said something really smart there, Aaron. If you don't see them in a rigid hierarchy, then they won't be. That totally, totally makes sense. Veronica, I had to take 2 years of deep study to get a handle on the court cards. Before that, I wanted to take them out of the deck sometimes. I don't blame you, man. Like 26, 27 years ago, when I was working my very first psychic fair, I walked into that fair praying that no court cards would show up. Of course they did, and I got through it, and here I am today. But yeah, I get it. Betty, sometimes I can't tell if it's a person or energy. Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Dina, sometimes court cards stop my intuition flow. Okay, I think this class is really going to help you, Dina, because what really stops your intuition flow is not the court card. It's a sense of anxiety or not knowing what to do with it. You know, anxiety and intuition cannot exist in the same space. So if we feel anxious about the court cards and what am I going to do with this card, then of course your intuition will suffer. Marion says, I usually start with the energy of the card. So if it's a king, not necessarily a man, but a masculine energy. Aaron says, that's me. Please, no court cards or we'll stay here forever. Hopefully after this class, you are going to feel differently. Okay, so we know that the court is part of the minor arcana. And how is the minor arcana structured? It's structured by number and suit. And we recognize that each number has a value and each suit has associations. So for instance, if we're talking about aces being the number 1, what do we recognize that all aces are? What does the number 1 speak to? It speaks to new beginnings. It speaks to the source or the origin or the essence of something. So you know that anytime you get an ace, anytime you get an ace, it's going to be a new beginning or a source or an origin or an essence. The suit determines what kind. So if it's cups, that's water, that's emotion, that could be a new relationship, a new love, a new way of looking at love. If it's pentacles, that could be new money. It could be a new job, a new way of taking care of yourself, a new way of making money. And Lynn brings up reversals. Oh, we're going there today too. And I promise you, I am going to teach you a system that makes it so much easier. So we've got that then. With an ace, it's easy to interpret because we know what 1 means and we know what each suit means. The exact same thing is true with the court. So let's go over the 4 suits, the 4 elements, shall we? Because this is very, very important to this. So when we look at the suit of cups, that is the water element, what do we see for water? We see the heart, we see emotion, we see feelings, we see flow, we see fluidity, we see intuition. Anything else? And go ahead and chat in. If you want to say something more about water, just say water and what you want to say about it, because we'll move on. I'll move on more quickly than you might because it takes longer to type than it does to write. So just make sure you tell us what you're talking about so we can add it into the conversation. Okay, so Pentacles is earth. And so what's that about? That's going to be about solidity, about groundedness, about practicality. It can be about money and about work. Wands in the Waite tradition is about fire. So that can be passion, it can be fun, it can be creative. Okay, Kathy says empathy, I'm assuming talking about water. Absolutely, along with the intuition that we share our feelings. We feel other people's feelings. Absolutely, absolutely. So with fire, passion, creativity, sexuality, anything that burns within us. And with swords, which is air, that's all the mental stuff. It's communication, it's integrity, it's intelligence. Can have to do with technology, and because communication, it can have to do with writing. So if there's anything else you would like to share with the 4 elements, anything else you see for fire, for earth, or for air, go ahead and type it in, because that's going to make a great deal of difference in terms of how you look here. So for Marion, water. This is the set of quartz I really struggle with the most. Okay, hopefully we will help you there. Absolutely. So then we start to look at rank and what are the key words that we associate with each rank. And remember that these cards can be people or not. And so when we think about that, when we think about keywords for each rank, we want to leave room for that. So for the rank of page, what are the key words that we would associate with it? Youth, feminine. Dina, swords are mental perceptions. Absolutely. Absolutely. So for pages, let's see. For Aaron, earth, rigidity, coldness, no nonsense attitude. Oops, I'm just describing myself and my sign. Well, a good way to get to know these elements is to think about it from the perspective of your sun sign, your rising sign, your moon sign, and how that shows up in your own personality, and how those elements show up in the personalities of people you know. That is absolutely a very appropriate way to get to know these cards. And Marion's laughing at you, Aaron, because she's an earth person too. Marion's a Taurus, I think. Yeah. All right. So for pages, we have youth. Now, typically, pages are thought of as feminine, although in my own practice, I do not necessarily see pages showing up as girls and knights showing up as boys, though traditionally it can be that way. Lynn says swords or air, the truth. Absolutely. That's why the Queen of Swords gets such a bad rap, because she's a woman who speaks the truth. We'll get there, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Okay, so back to our keywords for pages. Youth, feminine, communicators. When we think about pages, we want to think about communication and we want to think about learning. And so if these cards are people, they may be young people. They may be people who are communicating. Now, Dina says messengers. And that's a very typical thing to say, but I'll often say, well, what exactly does that mean? Aren't we all messengers? Aren't we all always delivering messages? And that's why I like the word communication better. Because not everyone is a good communicator. And so pages will talk about either someone who needs to communicate, or someone who is communicating, or someone who likes to communicate. Pages can be writers. And so when the page comes up, it could be a person of any age who is in the process of communication. Maybe they are writers. Maybe they are in jobs that involve communication. Maybe they're students. So you want to think about communicators and students. Now, often that is young people, because young people are, from the time they're 2 and they learn how to say why, they're talking all the time. And as parents, our young people, our kids always have something to communicate to us. We always need to listen to them. But also students, young people go to school. That's what they do. They are students. But remember too that the pages can be people of any age who are focused on communication or learning. Now, the pages can also tell us that we need to communicate or that we need to learn. Pages can also talk about the mode of communication. Very often when I speak with someone who is in business and the page comes up in a prominent situation, it's because they need to be working on their web page or their social media presence, because that's how we communicate with each other. It used to be that the pages would predict a letter in the mail. Now, if you think about that, back in the day, before we had the internet, before we had the postal service we now have, getting a letter was a big deal. If you got in your horse and carriage and went to see the fortune teller, and the fortune teller said, "You're going to receive a letter," that's big. Today, we get communication all the time, but we're still very often waiting for a very specific kind of communication. And so, the Page of Cups may have imagined into bring that fish, says Dina. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, but let us know. TK, I am a confused communicator. Mary, yeah, sometimes you are. Marion, could Paige be considered someone who communicates in an immature way? Now, this is where reversals come in for me. And if you don't read reversals, this is going to be harder. I really do advocate the use of reversals. Because when you reverse the pages, they're not doing it as well as they could. So a reversed page Could be a poor communicator, someone who is a shy communicator or an immature communicator. The reverse page could be someone who's refusing to learn or struggling in school. Betty said, someone said that the Page of Swords could be social media stalking. I could totally see that. Although, honestly, I would see it more as a knight. Well, pages because of the internet, but knight because of the pursuing. So like Knight of Swords, because swords is communication too. So yeah, either of those, I could absolutely see that. And Dina says, into being. Imagined into being that fish. You know, it's so interesting. What is the fish for the Page of Cups, really? And Dina says, pages have the power of imagination. That's an interesting thing. I've never really thought of the pages as particularly imaginative versus any of the other ranks. So I would love to sort of hear where that's coming from for you. Is that in their youth because young people tend to be imaginative? Is that in their ability to communicate? Yeah, let us know what you're thinking there. That's very interesting. So with your pages, you're going to think about communication. You're going to think about studying and going to school. And there it is. And you're going to think about youth. Martha, Page of Pentacles just came up in a reading I did. I interpreted it as the querent needing to go back to basics regarding money and practical matters. Very good, because the pages are youthful, so it's sort of like a more basic as compared to the king. Absolutely, that makes sense. Go back to basics and learn. You know, that's where the learning comes in as well. So we'll revisit these when we look at the suits. Veronica says, yes, I think the pages are the most artistic. I call the Page of Wands the artist. Interesting. Interesting. Now, see, for me, and again, it's how you do it. There's no right or wrong here. But for me, it would be the queens, because the queens nurture, and for me, creativity seems to be around nurturance. So that's an interesting thing. And Dina says, yes, in their youth, they're almost like aces. And I have heard that before. I have heard people sort of seeing the pages as being like the aces, because it's a beginning. The pages begin the ranks, just as the ace begins the numbered suit. And I think that is a standard way of doing it. I don't really do it that way, but I think it's standard, and I think it can work. Page of Swords, a text message. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's move back on to the knights. We're going to go through the ranks, and then we're going to go through the cards in suit. Okay. So with the knights, what are keywords for knight? They're also youthful. You know, very often your pages and your knights will be your kids and also your pets. Very often. I have people coming in here all the time wanting to do readings on their animals. And very often you can tell they want to talk about their animals because the animals will show up primarily as pages and knights. So that's an interesting thing too. But why? Because we think about our animals as being our children. So that makes sense. So knights are pursuers. They're travelers, they're pursuers, they're in motion. Veronica says, right, Betty says movement. Veronica says passion. Where are we here? Veronica, are you thinking that the knights are passionate because they're pursuing something? That would make sense. So knights can predict travel. Knights can tell us to pursue something. Or knights can talk about people of any age who are in pursuit of something. Let's see, Aaron says exuberant, short-tempered, fierce, strong-willed, and active. Certainly as people could be those things. Kathy, following through on a quest. Yeah, absolutely. Adina, types of movement and activity in regards to the question, sure. And also in regards to the suit, which we'll see when we talk about the suits. Now, queens. Queens for me are very often adult women. And it's a funny thing because with the pages and the knights, they can be people or not people. But when the queens come up, very often do I see them as people. And very often do I see them as adult women. Lynn says, knight, rate of movement, fast versus slow. Oh, yes. The Knight of Swords can sometimes come up in a reading just to say, it's going to happen quickly, or you should do this quickly. Whereas that Knight of Pentacles, things happen a little slower. Absolutely. That's a very good point, Lynn. Betty, moving to a new home. Sure. Any kind of motion or action could be depicted by the knights. Absolutely. Changing job, even. TK, I am a hermit reborn as a knight, hence the confused communicator. There you go. So the queens, adult women, but also the need to nurture. It may be telling you to nurture. It may be talking about the aspect of nurturing. And, the suit, we'll talk about what we're nurturing. Veronica, the Knight of Pence is my favorite. Slow but sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. So kings, very often I do see kings as adult men, but also as institutions. Banks, universities, governments, very often will show up as kings. If you have to deal with motor vehicles, going to the motor vehicle department, very often that will show up as a king. So kings can also talk about the quality of leadership, to be a leader. They can tell you to step up and take a leadership role. So those are some key words to talk about. Veronica says mastery. Yes, very good. Yes, the kings are masters. Exemplars, to be the exemplar of something. So you think about the kings as the highest expression of their element, having, as Veronica said, mastered their element. So, we'll talk about what that looks like as we talk about the elements. So let's talk about the 4 elements. Let's go back to the pages and talk about each one in terms of their element. Marion, I've had the King of Cups show up as a medical doctor. That totally makes sense. Dina, Queen of Cups in Morgan Greer Tarot seems like having tea with a compassionate girlfriend. Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Betty says authority for the kings. Totally. That totally makes sense. Absolutely. Okay. So let's go back and let's talk about each card within their element. And we recognize that, some of these 16 cards will have a very specific thing, like the Knight of Swords being swift. And not every other card may have that sort of a counterpart. So when we think about these cards, we think of them by rank and by suit. We think of them as people, as directives, as predictors. But some of them will have special meanings as well. And some of them may have special meanings to you, that when you see a particular card, it strikes you in a particular way. And that's good too. That works as well. All right. So let's go back to the pages and let's look at each one of them in suit. Starting with Lynn, nice to see you here. My key phrase for the King of Cups is control your emotions or they will control you. Beautiful. And I think what you're seeing there in the King is an abundance of that in that higher expression, there's an abundance. Now, for me, this is where reversals come in. I will see and maybe we'll talk about this before we talk about the individual elements. I will see all 16 of these cards when they are people, when they are upright. I will see them as people bringing the best aspects of their elements. When they are reversed or ill-dignified, I will see them as sort of the worst of their elements. So for me, the Knight of Cups would be, if it were a person, would probably be a gentleman who is very good at understanding and expressing his emotion, a very compassionate guy. If it's reversed, I might see those emotions as being very much out of control. So that's my way of doing it. Your way may be different. So, again, with reversals or ill dignity, if they're people and they're upright, they're expressing their elements in a positive way. If they're reversed, the opposite is true. Either they have too much or too little of their elemental energy. Now, if they're not people, if they're directives, the difference, okay, so say Page of Cups as a directive to speak your heart. If it's reversed, it may be the same directive, but with a different inflection, where you really need to speak your heart. Here, you're speaking your heart. Here, you really need to speak your heart. Aaron says that's my approach to upright and reversals as well. Cool. And if this doesn't work for you, that's okay. But it works for me. It works for a lot of people. So if you're struggling, give it a try. So let's stick with the Page of Cups. I love the Page of Cups. So we know the Page of Cups can be a young person. What kind of young person? We look at that water element. They're sensitive, they're intuitive, maybe they're creative. They're sweet. This would be a sweet young person. Reversed, maybe it's a sad or shy young person. But if it's a directive, again, it might tell you to speak your heart. It might tell you to study something that you love. Lynn says that helps. Cool. Might tell you to study something that you love. This might be predicting that you're going to receive a message of love. Veronica calls it an idealist. I love that. That's cool. You're going to receive a message of love. Sometimes I see the Page of Cups as a message of love from one in spirit. It may tell you to speak your emotions, speak what you're feeling, share your emotions with others. Okay, Page of Pentacles. I often think of the Page of Pentacles as the 5-year-old with the lemonade stand, like a very enterprising young person. It could also be about going to business school. It could be a young person who's practical, who's very methodical. Could be a young person born under an earth sign. Reversed, it might be a young person who's not doing their homework or not taking care of their responsibilities. It might tell you to go to business school. Did I tell you that already? I think I probably did. This is also traditionally the card of money in the mail. Now, these days, it could be that someone just Venmo'd you some money. It might be about your web page for business or a platform to take money online. This could show up that way. If it's telling you to learn, it's telling you to learn how to manage your money. Reversed, maybe you're not doing a good job with that. Okay, Page of Swords. So this for me is like the communicators. Oh, Aaron says entrepreneurship. Absolutely, 100%. So the Page of Swords is like the communicator's communicator because swords is communication and page is communication. Martha says Page of Pentacles, learning about tarot, astrology, and magic. Interesting. Is that because of Pentacles being earth and therefore earth magic? Or Pentacles being the symbol of Wicca in that way? Very interesting. Veronica, practicality and inventiveness combined. I love the Page of Pence. That's beautiful. Yeah, love it. So Page of Swords can very much be the card of a writer because of that like communicating with page and sword. It can be a young person who's very trustworthy. Reversed, it can be a young person who is not trustworthy or who's not communicating well. It could be about learning to communicate. It could be about learning technology. It could be about receiving information having to do with something that reveals the truth or having to do with technology. Make sense? So the Page of Wands, someone here referenced the Page of Wands earlier as an artist, which I really like. Could be an art student. Could be a young actor, definitely a person with something to communicate. In this card, they're very clearly communicating. But also fun-loving, could maybe be an athlete. Although, as I do see wands as having to do with athletics as well, the arts, sports, all of that. Although that might be more the knight because of the pursuit. So here we have a young person who maybe is an artist. Dina, impulsive speech. Which one? Which one? I could see that certainly with this card, big time. But what about like with the Page of Swords? Like which one would speak more impulsively? I would kind of go with wands being more impulsive, I would think. Okay, Betty, could be an immature person. Would we see the Page of Wands as more immature than any other page? And would we see the pages in general as immature adults? I could see that. I could absolutely see that. Maybe more in their reversal, but yeah, I absolutely could. And so this is interesting. You know, the two masculine suits that could both, okay, Dina says Page of Swords. So Page of Swords as being more impulsive in speech. Makes sense, absolutely. So the Page of Wands could tell us to go to art school. Could tell us to create a web page to sell our art or to sell our art on Etsy. The Page of Wands reversed, I often see that as the bored young person, the young person who's really not doing anything. I often see that reversed wand as a boredom or a disinterest. Marion says, wands more impulsive talking because of the fire element being more impulsive. Sure, I can see it either way, absolutely. And it's, you know, how you see it, of course, is what's important. I think it's important to have the conversation and figure it out rather than to be overly didactic about what it should be for each person, if that makes sense. So those are our pages. Let's move on to our knights. Veronica, I see Page of Air. I see pages as air, so Page of Air to me is usually the smartest one in the room. I like that. And you know, Veronica brings up an interesting point, is that the ranks also have elements, but there's a million different traditions. I tend to see knights as air, queens as water, kings as fire, and pages as earth. But there's a million different traditions, so whatever you think makes sense. Lynn, Page of Wands reverse, squandered potential. So that could be like the really talented person who's not using their talent. That's beautiful. I love that. Love that. Okay. So on to the knights. Knights can be people in pursuit of things. What are they pursuing? Knight of Swords, pursuing the truth or communication. Knight of Cups, the suitor, pursuing love. Knight of Pentacles, pursuing work or money. Knight of Wands, pursuing passion or fun. He's the goofiest of the knights, isn't he? Eve, nice to see you here. Temperaments and suits. Wands, sanguine, swords. You know, I don't even know these words. Cups, melancholic, sure. And Pentacles, phlegmatic. Man, you're the smartest one in the room right here. Very, very good. Those aren't even words in my vocabulary, although I've seen this in tradition. It's not something I've really embraced, but maybe should, and I really appreciate your sharing it. Thank you. Veronica, queens are the only ones we all usually agree on. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Lynn, Page of Wands reverse, procrastination. Oh, heck yes, for sure. For sure. Erin says queens are water, the other's chaos, right? Knight of Wands, he's there for the good time, not a long time. Well, yeah, there he is with his wand. Ha 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 ha. Lynn, Knight of Swords is my fixer. Knight of Wands is my bull in the china shop. I can see that for sure. Knight of Wands, the player from Betty, sure can be. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that's interesting. Of all the court cards, which one is the one who is likely to be the guy looking for sex versus commitment? The Knight of Wands is a good choice for that, I think. Very, very often, very often. Okay, so the Knights are pursuing, but they may also tell us to pursue. The Knight of Cups may say, go ahead and get on that dating app and look for love. The Knight of Swords may say, go pursue the knowledge. The Knight of Wands may say, go have some fun. Adina, I learned somewhere to look at the horse's movements too. Well, and depending, like in mine, you can't see it so much, but it's true that in weight, the Knight of Swords, that's why he's the swiftest knight. He's traveling forward. He's like galloping. Whereas Pentacles, the slowest knight, all his feet are on the ground. So absolutely, absolutely. So knights can talk about speed, the speed of something, and they can be in a reading just to say, do it quickly with the Knight of Swords, or take your time with the Knight of Pentacles. Absolutely. So when the knights are reversed, when they're people, I find them super problematic people. We've already said, okay, knights in their upright position are people expressing the best parts of their elements. Not all of the court cards, when reversed, are expressing like their elements in the worst way, or they're avoiding their elements or not in their element. But the knights reversed, man, there's nothing worse than a reversed knight because their horses are upside down. They can't go anywhere. Lynn, my favorite phrase for Knight of Pence is he may not be a romantic, but he'll make it up for you by buying a house. I love that. I love that. Knight of Cups, hopeless romantic from Lynn Sexton. We've got a couple of Lynns here today. Very good, very good. So the knights may talk about a trip. Knight of Cups, a romantic vacation. Knight of Wands, a fun trip or a trip to a sporting event or a concert. Knight of Swords, maybe a trip to learn something, going to a conference to learn something. Speaking of conferences, I want you all to plan to come to StarCon in South Florida in January 2021. Knight of Pentacles, travel for business. When they're reversed, it could be a canceled trip or a trip that you are dreading, that you don't want to take. Or they could be people not doing the right thing. Here we are. This could be Knight of Pentacles reversed. Could be a person not happy in their job or a person who's unemployed or not working. Can a knight be an email or a letter? That tends to be more the pages. But if you see it that way in the moment, it could be. Pages are more the communicators. Knight is more travel. That's more likely the trip. Knight of Swords as a person is going to be a very intelligent person. But reversed, they're not trustworthy. Knight of Wands could be goofy, could be fun, could be a player, but reversed, oh my God, he's boring AF. This is going to be the guy who just sits on his butt and plays video games all day, I swear to God. Okay, Knight of Cups reversed, maybe we're too shy. Wants to ask her out, but too shy. Marion, Knight of Pentacles is a trip to IKEA. Very good. And it's going to take you forever to build that damn furniture, too. Makes sense. Okay. Queens. Queens is adult females. How would we describe the Queen of Cups? Perhaps she's dreamy, perhaps she's loving, perhaps she's intuitive, perhaps she's romantic, but reversed, she might be depressed. Queen of Wands, creative, passionate, fun, funny, but reversed, she might be really boring. Queen of Pentacles, Pentacles is so interesting because you could see her as the president of the bank, or you could see her home baking an apple pie, or maybe she does both. She's nurturing money, she's nurturing the home, she's nurturing nature, she's nurturing children. She could be a gardener, she could be a business executive, she could be any of those things, but reversed, she might be a lousy mother, she might be unemployed or broke. TK, I was a boring Knight of Wands reversed, but I reversed myself. Still yet to find my queen. Well, you're young, you've got time. Okay, Queen of Swords. So if you read an old tarot book, you're going to see don't trust this woman, more likely to be childless, more likely to be a widow. And I sometimes do see this card coming up for people who are widowed. But really, I feel like the Queen of Swords gets a bad rap because she's a woman who tells the truth. And who likes a woman who tells the truth? There's a lot of sexism shows up in traditional tarot, but we can use that to help us understand the cards. So I would see Queen of Swords as a woman who tells the truth, and sometimes you don't always appreciate a woman telling the truth, or anyone. Reversed, though, that's when I think she might be a bit of a bitch. So there's that. So the queens can also tell us to nurture. Dina says Queen of Swords, a modern woman. Sure, absolutely. Betty says bitchy. Sure, absolutely. So Queen of Pentacles, nurture your home, nurture your kids, nurture your bank account. Queen of Swords, nurture the truth. Queen of Wands, nurture the things you're passionate about. Queen of Cups, nurture your heart or nurture the hearts of those around you. And TK says that's why the truth is ugly. Can be. When reversed, the queens may say you're not nurturing this enough. You need to nurture it more. Kings. Kings can be adult males or leaders. Or as we've said, they could be kind of the epitome of their suit. Oh, Aaron, man, you're opening a can of worms. Let us not equate the W word with the B word. So funny. Queen of Swords, just the facts. Yep, absolutely. Very good, very good. Okay. So King of Pentacles would be a very practical man, a career guy. Reversed, though, maybe he's having financial difficulties. King of Cups, a very loving guy. Reversed, though, maybe having emotional difficulties. King of Wands could be fun, outdoorsy, creative, but reversed, man, boring. Oh, that's a good one, Dina. Reverse Queen of Cups, your cup is empty, burned out. Yeah, the idea of burnout. That makes a lot of sense. I like that. King of Swords, a very honest guy. Reverse, though, I wouldn't trust him. And if these are directives, they're telling you to take a leadership role. King of Cups, take a leadership role in showing love and compassion. King of Pentacles, take a leadership role at work. King of Swords, take a leadership role in standing up for the truth. King of Wands, take a leadership role in your band. Become the front person of your band. Or take a leadership role as an artist or as a creative person. So those are some ways of looking at the cards. And what you want to think about is it may be more than one thing at the same time. Martha, King of Wands reversed, could also be blowing hot and cold, erratic fire. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So now, if you have your suits separated by rank, as I asked you to do in the beginning, let's go through and do some readings. Marion says, I just love a King of Swords. I just can't say no. Now I want to break out into that song from Oklahoma. That was funny. King of Swords, very intelligent? Yes. Absolutely. Very intelligent and good communicator. And trustworthy. Absolutely. So, I want you to take your 4 pages and shuffle just the 4 pages. And what I want you to ask is, where in my life do I need to be communicating better? And pull one card. Go ahead and type in what you got and what you think it means to you. And I got Page of Wands. So I could be communicating better about the things I love. Of course, I'm trying to communicate about the things I love right now, but could always be doing it better. And so I would take that as sort of the idea that, yes, I'm already doing it, but I can level up my game. I can do better. I can be clearer. I can communicate more clearly about the things I love. So go ahead and type in what you got for your page. Where can you be communicating better and what it means? And then when you're done with that, you're going to go to the Knights. And Aaron says the Page of Swords. So what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you? Could you be communicating better about something that is true, telling the truth better, telling your truth better, communicating about technology? Should you be writing more? Should you be studying more technology? Should you be doing more on the internet? What's up with that for you? Okay. So what should I be pursuing is the question you're going to ask of the 4 Knights. And pick one card. I got the King of Cups. I should always be pursuing love. And I try to do everything from the perspective of love and compassion, even when it's really, really hard. And sometimes it is. So there it is. Oh, and hey, Strength Reversed is here. Pentacles at work. Communicating better at work. That makes sense. Martha, Page of Wands. I'm preparing a social media campaign for my business Facebook page. Beautiful, beautiful. Dina, Page of Rods. I could communicate my creative ideas better. Absolutely. Kathy, Page of Pentacles, focusing more on making financial gain. Marion, Page of Wands as well. Need to get the passion free from myself. Beautiful, very well done. And when you've done that, move on to the Knights. Which of the Knights do you choose for what you should be pursuing? Then we're going to take the Queens and we're going to say, what do I need to be nurturing right now? What must I nurture at this time? So shuffle just the 4 Queens and tell us what you should be nurturing. And I got the Queen of Wands. So interestingly, I'm a Scorpio, and so my native court card significator would be the Queen of Cups, but I always identify as the Queen of Wands. My rising sign is Leo, and I identify with that a great deal. The Queen of Wands for me is always me as a tarot reader. So I need to be nurturing me and nurturing myself and nurturing my business. Martha, Knight of Pentacles. I need to pursue money. There you go. Makes sense. Dina, Knight of Swords, pursuing more writing. Hallelujah. Very good. Very good. And so then finally with the Kings, let's ask the question, which king shows me how to be a better leader? So let's take a look. The Knight of Cups. I need to be more compassionate. And that's funny because I also, and I'm sorry, I think I said Knight, but I meant King of Cups. I also got the Knight of Cups. And I will say that I had a situation recently where I probably did not respond in the most loving of ways. And I think this is the card sort of calling me out on that. So that makes complete sense. Okay. Marion, Knight of Wands. I have to stop behaving like a player and pursue my passions. Beautiful. Dina, Queen of Pentacles. Nurture my resources. Very good. Strength Reversed, Knight of Cups. Find my joy. Oh, I love this. This is so good. So keep those coming in. And for a final exercise, we will take all 16 cards and shuffle just the 16 cards together to get one more piece of direction from the universe. What should I do? And so we shuffle just these 16 cards. And what do I get? What should I do? What should I do? Knight of Swords. I should be a leader and do the right thing as a leader. And I should see myself as a leader doing the right thing. I should write more for sure. But in all things, I need to see myself as a leader. Marion, Queen of Swords, nurture what my truth is and don't be afraid to speak it. Yes, very, very good. Very good. Martha, Queen of Pentacles, nurture resources, and King of Wands, lead with my passions. Oh, so good. That's so nice to see. Very, very good. Now, as people are typing in their readings, let me just talk a little bit. I had mentioned the concept of a native court card significator. That would be the rank that you identify with by age and gender, and the element that is the element of your sun sign. But you might choose a different court card significator, and you can even do that as a goal. If you want to be different than you are, choose a court card to be your significator that exemplifies the qualities that you're trying to develop in yourself, and that actually is a form of tarot magic. Now, it's interesting in readings when court cards come up and you're identifying them as particular people. Imagine if you're reading for someone and a card comes up, a court card comes up, and you want to say literally, who is this in your life? Is this your husband? Is this your son? Is this, Sometimes you can do that. Sometimes it's very clear, and sometimes it will be by astrology, but not always. Okay, Aaron got the King of Cups. Betty, Knight of Cups, be more loving. Yes, indeed. Toward yourself, toward others, bring the energy of love. Marion got the King of Swords. Own my intellect and share it with others. Hallelujah. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Let's see. Dina, Page of Swords. Don't be afraid to be a new writer or beginner. Oh, I love that, Dina. That's beautiful. Hey, Jean Mnuchin. Nice to see you here. Page of Cups, learning about love and communication. So nice. Aaron, but I'm a Capricorn. We don't do emotions. Oh, yes, you do. You just get stuck in them. That's hilarious. That's fun. Okay, so we are in our last 3 minutes. For those of you watching in archive, thank you so much for being here. For everyone who is here live with me today, thank you. We have a few minutes, so keep on bringing in your readings. Let's see what we got. Martha, Page of Pentacles, keep on learning and build a strong resource base. Veronica, Page of Pentacles, finally start working the tarot business I've been planning with my friend. Yes, 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 yes. By all means, do that. Kathy, Knight of Swords, be confident in my writing. Yes. Betty, I'm Aquarius. I'm the Queen of Swords. It fits me perfectly. Oh, that's beautiful. So beautiful. So I'm hoping that this gives you a little more fluidity with the court cards. We know that in a reading, the important thing is to say what you feel in the moment and recognize that one card could talk about someone's kid, could be a directive, could be all different things all at the same time. So be open to letting that flow. I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Let me just drop some shameless self-promotion. You are going to be seeing some changes in the next month on my YouTube channel, so look out for that. I want to remind you that on March 8th, it's a Sunday, 10:30 a.m., we're back here to make friends with the Suit of Swords, so I hope you join me there. If you're on Facebook, please like my page, Christiana Gaudette. And also, you want to shoot me a friend request, go ahead and also ask to join the group Global Tarot Circle. We meet once a month on Facebook Live, and we have a lot of fun there as well. For those of you who are local, I do have classes and meetups here in South Florida. And of course, we have StarCon coming up, January 22nd through 24th, 2021, an international tarot conference in South Florida. Registration has not yet opened, but it will soon. I want to remind you, you can find my 2 books on Amazon, Fortune Stellar and Tarot Tour Guide. And I am available to you for readings by phone, Skype, FaceTime, Messenger, or here in person in Palm City, and I'm also available for mentorship. If you want to take your tarot reading skills or your tarot business to the next level, I can work with you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all the love. Thanks for being here. I will look forward to seeing you all soon. Have a great day. Thank you.